Finally, we'll go to Connaught, to Mayo Leitrim. Probably, like everyone I'm sure will say that this is the game. This is the game that they're sure what the result is going to be. The bookies have it a 13-point handicap for Mayo, I think. As you're shaking your head there, Michael, you know the Leitrim lads inside out by now as well.
Well, I just think 13. I know it's going to be fairly one-sided, but I do think that the Leitrim lads will be relishing this challenge. I know every year I was involved, we played Roscommon. There's a mental block in Leitrim about Roscommon, and no matter how well we prepared or how different we try to do things, like the second year I think we tried to finish with a stronger team and try to nullify them for the first 20 minutes, and like talking to Cahill and a few of the Roscommon lads afterwards, the kick scores that they never kick, so it just seems to happen and fall that way for Roscommon, but they never seem to have the same difficulties with Mayo now. Mayo will comfortably win, but I think they will ask a few questions, and I think Leitrim now have a forward line, although Ryan is probably missing. I think they have a forward line that will, Ryan O'Rourke will be a massive player for them. Like, it'd be like Mayo missing Aidan O'Shea. I do think they have forwards that can kick with both feet, which they haven't had in a very long time. They have 5 or 6 forwards that can kick with both feet. But I think 13 points is a bit, it may end up like that. Like, if Mayo can do that to Galway, obviously Mayo have the potential to do it, but 13 points is, yeah, I don't know. I'm coming with my kind of Leitrim side of where I've seen where they've come from, and I do think they will cause Mayo problems for 20 or 30 or maybe even 40 minutes, but I can see Mayo pulling away. It depends what team Mayo put out, obviously, but I think Leitrim will be relishing the battle.
Yeah, and just to stick with you for a second as well, Michael, I went up, like I didn't know a whole pile about Leitrim club football. I knew the teams. I didn't know a whole pile about the Leitrim players at all. I went up with Benny Guckian, man you know well as well. We went up and we did commentary on the Leitrim County final. And I watched this Keith Byrne playing centre forward for Mohill. And he is going to cause problems for Mayo, I think, this weekend.
Well, Keith was top scorer in Division 4 3 years ago, top scorer in Division 4 2 years ago, and he was second top scorer in Division 3 this year. Like, you know what I mean? So again, he's one of these players. He's playing centre forward. He played left centre forward the last day. Don't know how well that suits him. Maybe with Ryan O'Rourke on, he might go inside. You have Dara Rooney there with 2 feet as well. I was involved with the under-20s last year. Some very, very good talents coming through with pace. The only thing about it is they would have never dealt with the kind of counter-attacking football that Mayo play. Like when you have Oisin Mullen coming from the full back line. And I always remember the last time that Leitrim played Mayo, Ray Cox would have been involved down at Duff, the club that I was with in Leitrim before he joined the county team. And he was marking Keith Higgins, and he said the first ball that came into Keith Higgins, and I would have played with Keith in college, he said he just took off. And he says he ran after him for 80 or 90 meters, and next thing Keith popped the ball over the bar, punched it over the bar, and he just, on the way back, he just pleaded with them not to go forward again and just leave it. And it was a very one-sided game, but it was just, I just expect the same on Sunday with that kind of Oisin Mullen going and the full back line going. And you know, the likes of the Leitrim forwards are very good, but they're not used to chasing back. And if they have a system to kind of counteract that, it might help them. But I just think the pace that Mayo have coming from the back line is going to scotch Leitrim altogether.
Just quickly, Pa, as a wing back, you're looking over at your centre half back there, you know, this week, and even look at even last week for Mayo coming up against Conor McKenna at centre forward, Keith Byrne this weekend at centre forward. Do you think Kevin McLaughlin is the right man there at centre back?
Yeah, it was kind of an experiment they tried at the weekend. I'm not sure how well it worked. It was worth trying it. Look, I suppose McLaughlin's a very intelligent footballer, but I suppose it comes down to who's playing centre forward as well for the other team. You play centre back for your club as well, and are you marking a centre forward who drops? Are you marking a centre forward who holds and is going to be driving at you the whole time? That'll probably dictate more to the Mayo management about who's going to be picking. Now, again, to Michael's point, are they going to be worrying too much about what Leitrim do and more about what they're going to do? But generally, you want your centre back to be that person who meets whatever comes down the middle, or a little bit of protection to your full back line. If that's the case and Keith is drifting around the place and getting on ball, do you put someone on him? I don't know. Do you get one of the midfielders to drop in and just block it up? I hope for Leitrim's sake that it is a worry for Mayo, because it means they're getting plenty of ball off kickouts, and we're talking about kickouts and keeping with them. And to Michael's point again, I saw Limerick playing Mayo 2 years ago in the championship, and for 40 minutes again it was a game, and Limerick relished playing it because they hadn't played them too often. But the final score was not pretty, and that's the only thing you'd worry about. It's grand sticking with a team like Mayo for that long, but they've so much legs and they've so much power coming from all over the field. Like any one of their players could score. Like I see one is Paddy Durkins. Is he lined out, or Keegan's in the full back line now, and Durkins could be anywhere, and that's just their backs, not to mention their forwards. So, like, it's funny that you should say, Michael, about the hang-ups. Like, I didn't realise that about Leitrim and not having the hang-up of Mayo. Like, in Limerick, you'd have a bit of a hang-up about Kerry, obviously. But then when you play Cork, like, they're in the same, as good as Cork teams have been over the years, there just isn't the same. And when Limerick teams play Cork, it's a much closer affair. And if that's the case in Leitrim with Mayo, like, then they'll be relishing the match this weekend. Obviously, you're expecting Mayo to come out on top, but if you're in the Leitrim dressing room and have no hang-ups, why not go for it?
Well, it's a kind of shot in the dark for them. Like the midfield battle, what I would think, like, you might have seen Donal Rinn playing. Like, Donal Rinn is a big, strong lad. He played for DCU. He won a Sigerson with DCU. Like, to move him back to full back to Aidan O'Shea, do Mayo continue to play Aidan O'Shea in the full forward line? If we're being honest about it, Mayo are looking past the Leitrim game. Are they preparing for Roscommon, or are they just blooding players? Like Chris Barrett hasn't played a lot of football. Are they trying to get minutes into him? Killian hasn't played an awful lot of football this year. Are they giving him a full game to get minutes into him? Or are they protecting players? Or it depends on what kind of way the Mayo management kind of look at it. Because, like, as Pa was saying, like Lee Keegan, does he play in the full back line now? Is that where they're looking at him? Do they play him at centre back? Play Kevin McLaughlin there? They've so many versatile players. It's just to get a system that works for them now and continue with that for the championship. They've obviously gone down to Division 2, which is not ideal. You can say they've been competitive, and you've talked about Dublin under Stephen and all that. They still haven't beaten Dublin since 2012. So being in the top 3 or 4 is no good for Mayo. It's either win a championship or not. Like, you know, getting these pats on the back for coming to within a point to Dublin is still Dublin lifting Sam. And at the end of the day, if they're planning an assault in championship, this might be their best year to do it.
Can I just ask Mike, do you mind if I ask Michael a quick one? How concerned are you that Mayo went down to Division 2? Because, look, Horan said after the game, it's all about the championship. Now, I actually believe him, and I don't think it's done Donegal much harm. They've been a bit yo-yo in the last couple of years. You know, they're Division 2. McGuinness got them to an All-Ireland final 2014. They went down last year, and it was actually, Division 2 was actually a good enough breeding ground for the younger players. And listen, I know there's less revenue coming in, less gates, if there is a non-COVID world or such a thing. But conversely, Mayo were relegated, but I think they're going into the championship in a better place than Galway. Michael, so how concerned would you be, your Mayo supporters, are going to Division 2?
I don't think so. I think winning the league last year was a big monkey off the back. I was involved in 2001 when we won it, and it was 20 years. It was 19 years. It was too long. And the likes of Andy Moore and an MTK national title was good. It's done. The management seem to be doing this year. They seem to be blooding in new players. Like, you have 5 or 6 new players that have got league time in the last 2 or 3 games, which to me would be more important than League One status. Like, it was 23 years or whatever. It doesn't really matter. As you say, Division 2 is very, very competitive. And, like, you're able to blood young players there. And as long as it's the championship approach now, like the league was won last year, it's done. It's time to kind of concentrate on championship. And, like, it's winning a championship. It's not coming a point or the hard luck stories or, you know, woe is us again. It's about winning the championship. And whatever it takes to do that, even if it takes 3 years and start now, that's what needs to be done. And I can see that's what James Owen looks like he's planning to do.
Over the last probably 10 years nearly, Michael, you have your experience as a coach and as a manager. You know, it's hard to know, as you said, are Mayo going to put out not a dud team, but put out a team that will give the likes of, you know, Mark Moore another game, even Paul Towie, lads like that, give them more game time? Or are they going to go and blow Leitrim out the water in the weekend? Because we all remember the Connaught final of a few years ago. Mayo went to the Hyde and bet Sligo. I think Aidan O'Shea scored 3-4, 3-5 and put him in at full forward, and he was brilliant that day, in fairness. But it's just completely, you know, they just turn around the deck of cards here and they turned them around and showed them to Dublin. You know, they showed them their hand straight away. Do you think, will the managers, from a managerial perspective, would you be looking at that and saying, you know, maybe we should just hold back a small bit for the Leitrim game, or will we just, you know what, we'll just go for it?
Yeah, it's kind of different this year when it's old school championship again. The likes of Mark Moore and those lads, I always found, and Pam might agree or disagree with me, the more game time you got, the better you felt. Like, if you were getting in for a game and after 40 minutes, especially as a wing forward or wing back, you're kind of looking over and waiting for the shepherd's hook to get you off. You know, there's no momentum in playing like that. There's no confidence. You don't feel part of the team. You don't feel as a unit, and you're kind of always looking to see that you're going to be taken off. For those lads, it's very important that they get 2 or 3 games to blood into championship, and that might bode well for Mayo down the line. But I just think with it knockout this year, momentum is a massive thing. And obviously, I do feel that they'll get over the line fairly comfortably against Leitrim. But how they go get, I do think Killian needs to play. I think he needs minutes in his legs. Aidan O'Shea on top of the square. Like, if Roscommon are going to plan for it, they're going to plan for it anyway. I don't see what major issues it's going to have. But I would try and make a blend of the younger players coming through with the older players that need time. Like Chris Barrett, I think, is massive for Mayo, whether he plays centre back or in the corner back, where he plays. For him to get game time would be a big thing for Mayo this weekend.
And the following week as well, look at, if we're banking on Mayo beating Leitrim. Sligo play Galway, Mayo play Roscommon. Then, you know, regardless of whether Mayo put out a second team against Leitrim or not, they're going to have, if they want to get to a Connaught final, if they want to get to an All-Ireland semi-final, they're going to have to beat Roscommon and Galway. Who do you see winning Connaught this year? And this is open to everyone as well.
Let Paddy go first.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Mayo, to be honest, in the last couple of years. And listen, they beat us in 13, 15, they beat us last year. And listen, I know they've dished out plenty of hammerings down the years, but I remember even putting it to Declan Bonner before the big game in Castlebar last year. Mayo have this habit of stuttering along and almost matching exactly like the team they're playing, whether that's a Division 2 team or a Division 3 team, and they can stutter along. Then they're taking on one of the big boys, and one thing about them, they just always get their matchups right. And listen, and those, I know they didn't beat Dublin since 2012 semi-final, but even those 2 finals against Dublin, you know, more recent ones, 16 and 17 was it, they just have this ability, and it's down to versatility. They can get their matchups absolutely perfect. Paddy Durkin is a phenomenal player. We know all about him last year. He was outstanding in Castlebar that day. One of the great individual displays. And I remember going into that game so worried. Mayo are top drawer. I fancy Mayo to win Connaught. I think they'll go very, very close to an All-Ireland under James Horan. I like what they're about. I mentioned versatility. They just have it. And they've a guy now, Conroy inside, who could be that just extra guy that's going to happen. There's going to help Killian O'Connor. Listen, we even talk, not to digress, talk about the great Peter Canavan, who for me was the best inside forward I've ever seen. He didn't win the All-Ireland. He almost single-handedly won at 95, but he didn't win. They didn't get over the line until the likes of Muggsy came along. Later on, Stephen O'Neill and that. And Conroy could be a massive player. I wouldn't be too critical about Mark Moore and these guys. You know, they're still very young, and it takes a long time now to enter county football. I think Mayo's going to win Connaught. I think they're not as bad a place as many people say, despite the disappointment. I think in Horan, they have a phenomenal manager. And I think they're going to beat Roscommon and Galway, and I expect them to go on to the semi-final to play Kerry.
Yeah, I keep it Mayo. I think Roscommon are the ones that have their house in order the most, but Mayo have the X factor. And unfortunately for Galway, they just seem to be picking up injuries at the wrong time, like with Damien Comer and the like missing. So I think Mayo.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Pat there. I just think, you know, you never write off Galway, but I just think this year, just the way it's come out of lockdown hasn't suited them. I think Roscommon are in the best vein of form. But I think it's Mayo for Connaught for me. And just again, there's other players like Mark Moran and Darren McHale and all them. And as you say, he's just building a panel. I do think they have got, like, if you had Paddy Durkin and Lee Keegan on your 2 wing backs, it's where he puts the players is going to make the difference here and getting his matchups right. But yeah, Mayo for me.